and welcome back to another video. I hope you've been keeping very well and I hope you're having a lovely week so far. This week I'm going to bring you along for a few days of what I'm eating, and in particular in this video and over these few days I'm going to focus on making some budget-friendly vegan meals. These videos continue to be requested, which I completely understand given the constant increase of groceries, so I hope that this video will give you some meal inspiration and some ideas of some really simple and quick and easy meals that you can make that are on more of a budget. Anyway, let's get into making breakfast this morning and then into the rest of the video, which I will very much so hope that you enjoy. Okay, so with my oats, I really love having this most of the time. I like adding some frozen raspberries and maple syrup and cooking that down together. Then into a separate saucepan, I add rolled oats as well as soy milk, and then add a little bit of maple syrup for sweetness, and then mix that all together. I'm gonna cook this on medium heat for about 10 to 15 minutes, and as you can see, over time it will really cook down and make this beautiful texture. I personally prefer my oats to be a little bit on the runnier side, and I really, as mentioned, love having this delicious raspberry mixture on top for texture, for flavor, and honestly we have to agree it does look pretty beautiful. So this was my breakfast on Monday morning and it was absolutely lovely, so hearty and also really affordable to make. My partner and I have been really getting into making homemade flatbreads lately, and these were absolutely delicious. I started with some plain flour, salt and some baking powder, and I whisked that together. Then I added in some cold water, and the thing I love about flatbreads like this is they're super easy to make and they are also budget friendly. So I added in some maple syrup, some olive oil, rolled up those sleeves, and then got into mixing all of this dough together. So I mixed with a spatula for pretty much as long as is possible, and then I use my hands to continue working the dough. A fun fact about me is that I actually hate the texture of flour on my hands, and I learned that when I worked at a bakery in my early 20s. I really do not enjoy it, but I do it for the flatbreads. So I rolled up this dough, I cut it into 8 even portions to make 8 flatbreads, and then I continued rolling in flour and rolling this out into some uneven but beautiful flatbread shapes. Then to fry these up, I drizzled with a little bit of olive oil because I really wanted these to get nice and golden, and so I continued cooking these up. They need about, like, I would say 3 to 4 minutes on each side, so it definitely can be a bit more of a time consuming process, but definitely worth it. Now, of course, we need something to serve these flatbreads with, so I'm starting with 1 leek, which I am cutting up, and then finally slicing it, making sure to wash this before cooking it. Then into a saucepan, I put some vegan butter, followed by that leek that I had washed well, and I started frying that all up. Then I added in some butter beans. I love beans so much because they are so affordable and so delicious. I also added in some veggie stock powder as well as the zest of some lemon and the juice of some lemon as well. Continued frying that up, mixing it all together for a few minutes, and then I'm going to serve this with some hummus. This is like the creamiest hummus I've had, honestly, probably ever. It's so good. We've been loving it so much, and I serve it with the leek and butter beans, a little bit of parsley on top, and a couple of flatbreads on the side. I really recommend trying this. It was honestly so delicious, and something that I am going to continue making because I love butter beans, I love leek, I love hummus, and I love flatbread. So for dinner tonight, I started by cutting up some brown onion and some garlic because I'm gonna make one of my favorite really simple pasta dishes that also happens to be budget friendly. So into a frying pan, I put some vegan butter and I melted that down, and then I added in the brown onion and the garlic, and I fried this up for about 3 to 4 minutes. Whilst it was frying up, I also sliced some zucchini into kind of like some zucchini noodles in a way, and then it was time to return to the frying pan. So I added in some soy milk, followed by the zest and the juice of some lemon and some veggie stock powder, and I mixed this together well before removing this from the heat. Then with this zucchini, I'm drizzling with some olive oil, adding in some salt and some black pepper, and I'm tossing that together well. Then into a saucepan, I'm adding this zucchini and I'm just frying it up lightly. It doesn't need long, only like 2 to 3 minutes. And then I am going to cook the spaghetti. Obviously, we're definitely going to need this for this pasta dish. So I cooked up the pasta until al dente and then transferred into the frying pan with the zucchini noodles that I had cooked up. And then I'm going to mix this all together to make this really simple, creamy lemon and zucchini pasta. I make something like this pretty regularly because it's so quick and easy to make, and it's just packed full of flavor and I love it. I definitely recommend giving this one a go. Good morning, happy Tuesday. Let's get into making breakfast. So for breakfast this morning, I'm making a simplified version of the tofu scramble that we usually make in this household, and I started with some vegan butter as well as some firm tofu, which I just crumbled into the pan. Then I added in some soy milk, followed by some mustard, some Dijon mustard, as well as some veggie stock powder, some garlic powder and onion powder, and I mix this all together. This is going to go on a medium heat and you're just going to cook it away and cook it down until it becomes a really nice texture. You don't want it to be too watery, but you also do not want it to be too dry. Dry is the word that I was looking for. Anyway, to serve this, I used some of the flatbread that I had prepared yesterday, and I just drizzled this with some barbecue sauce and added a little bit of parsley on top, mainly for the aesthetic of it all, if I'm being completely honest. And yeah, this is a really simple breakfast, and I love tofu scramble so very much. Okay, happy Tuesday. Let's get into making some lunch. I am gonna make a couscous nourish bowl for lunch today, which I honestly love cooking with couscous, both when I am on a budget and also on a time crunch, because I think that it is quite affordable and a little goes a long way. That is going to be the base of my lunch today. But before we get into it, I want to say a big thank you to my friends at Skillshare for very kindly sponsoring this video. I've been pretty open about the fact that this year has definitely been a challenging one. Honestly, probably the most challenging year that I have ever had, and at the moment I am really in a space of like really trying to move forward from what has been a really tough year and really leaning into things that I have been wanting to do for a while. Like for example, this summer I am determined for my boyfriend to teach me how to surf. But when it comes to work and my creativity, I really feel myself thriving using Skillshare to learn new skills. And at the moment, I am really trying to focus on how to create a better work-life balance with my creative career, because when you work for yourself, it can be very easy for it to seep into every area of your life. So at the moment, I'm trying to find a way to be more productive in order to separate the two a lot easier. So whilst I make this couscous bowl today, I'm also going to finish watching this class that I'm about halfway through. It's called Productivity for Creators, Systems, Organization and Workflow. And not only have I been loving these types of classes on productivity, I've also been really enjoying the cooking classes as well as ones on editing and writing. And these are things that I find help me in both my personal and my professional life. Oh, and if you've never heard of Skillshare before, it is the largest online learning community for creatives. It has thousands of classes and is honestly such a wonderful platform to develop new skills, new hobbies or passions, and take your career to the next level. I've honestly loved it for years, and it's definitely something I recommend if you're feeling creative or curious. If you're keen to give it a go, the first 500 people to use the link in my description box will receive a free 1-month trial of Skillshare. And if you do try it out, feel free to let me know if there's any classes that you recommend. Anyway, time for me to get the headphones in and to get into finishing this class and into making this delicious budget-friendly couscous bowl. Okay, let's get into making this bowl. I'm starting by putting some chickpeas as well as olive oil and some harissa seasoning into a bowl and mixing this together well, and then transferring these chickpeas onto a baking tray and putting those in the oven whilst I prep my couscous. So I'm adding in couscous, vegan butter, some salt and some pepper to a bowl, adding in some boiling water, and then I'm going to mix this together before putting the lid on and setting it to the side. So I am enjoying enjoying my Skillshare class very much so, and I am cutting up some cucumber as well as some cherry tomatoes. Honestly, these are just kind of like my two go-to vegetables that I really like having in a nourish bowl, as well as some spinach, as we can see. So I added the couscous, spinach, roasted chickpeas, cucumber, cherry tomatoes and lemon to this bowl, and it was a very nourishing, quick, easy and budget-friendly lunch. When it came to dinner, I decided to make one of my classics. I used to eat this so much, and honestly I need to get back to it because it's so simple and easy to make. I start by cutting up some onion as well as some garlic and putting this into a saucepan with a bit of olive oil and smoked paprika. I fry this up for a few minutes before adding in some red kidney beans that I had drained and rinsed. I continued mixing that together, adding in some tinned tomatoes, once again continuing to mix and adding in some vegan beef stock powder. So I continue mixing this all together, reduce the heat to low and then put the lid on whilst I cooked some rice. Now I'll be the first to admit that cooking rice is like not my forte and is something I'm truly still working on perfecting, but this turned out relatively well. I cooked a whole bunch of rice over the stove because I did want to use some for leftovers throughout the rest of the week, which I love doing. So into this bowl I put the rice, spinach, some cucumber, as well as that smoky bean mix, and it was a really simple and delicious dinner, but honestly that's what I need. That's what makes me feel good. On Wednesday morning I was very much so in the mood for something sweet, so I started by adding a banana to a bowl and I started mashing this all up. Once it was mashed well, I added in some soy milk followed by some apple cider vinegar, and I mixed this together well. Then I added in raw sugar as well as plain flour. I also added in some baking powder and I mixed this together to make a lovely, lovely pancake batter. I also cut up some dark chocolate and then I put this in because we're doing banana choc chip pancakes. Iconic, banana and choc chip, an iconic combo. And then I cooked these pancakes up. So this recipe makes 2 serves, which you'll be able to see those details down in the description box if you do want to try them at home. I just drizzled with a little bit of maple syrup and called it a day. Very simple, very delicious, really hit the spot when I was feeling something sweet for breakfast. I absolutely love a leftover, especially recently, so I decided to heat up the leftovers of some of the rice and all of the smoky bean mixture, put it in the microwave for a couple of minutes, and then it was all good to go, and I got to enjoy a very quick and easy lunch out of a container, which I loved. So it is a beautiful sunny afternoon here and I'm really in the mood for a fun drink, and recently I've been thinking about the fact that I wanted to try making my own homemade raspberry lemonade, because a fun fact about me is that like a homemade old-fashioned lemonade is one of my favorite drinks, and it's not something that is super common here in Australia, at least not like it is based on my experience visiting the United States. It was back in 2017. My friend and I went and honestly was shocked by the fact that most cafes and restaurants had homemade lemonade on the menu, and not only that, they had free refills, which honestly kind of like blew my mind at the time because, as mentioned, it's not really something that we have as readily available here. Anyway, upon my research recently, it's so ridiculously easy to make, and honestly I can't believe it's taken me this long to get around to trying to make it, but I figured today is the perfect day because it's a beautiful sunny afternoon. We're heading into summer, so it's the perfect time for me to be reigniting this love for homemade lemonade. But as well as that, based on my research, it seems budget friendly in comparison, especially to the supermarket prices. So I figured this afternoon is the afternoon to do so. So yeah, let's get into making it. I'm really excited and I'm really keen to try it. So to make this lemonade, I am starting with some lemons. Of course, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, make raspberry lemonade, apparently. Anyway, I don't know what's happening in this voiceover, but I am adding lemon and raspberries into a blender, blending together and then sieving it through to get rid of any of the chunks before adding in some raw sugar and some water and mixing this together well. Then I decided to transfer it into this jar because I didn't have any appropriate bottles on hand, and I put that in the fridge to chill. And then of course I had to try one, so I poured some over ice into a wine glass, the best way to enjoy a lovely sweetie drink, and honestly This was 10 out of 10 good. Would recommend making your own homemade lemonade. Okay, so for dinner tonight, I am starting with this leftover rice. This is the rice that I cooked yesterday, and I'm going to use it to make a crispy rice salad for dinner tonight. It's going to have a delicious peanut butter sauce. I'm going to put a whole heap of edamame in there as well, which I love so much, and we're going to throw some other veggies in there for good measure. But this is a really simple meal to make. It's a really good one that you can prep in advance as well, and yeah, it's just a good way to use up leftovers and once again to cook on a budget. So let's get into making it. I'm actually so excited because I haven't had something with my peanut butter sauce in like a week, which is a long time for me, so definitely keen to get into it. So I transferred this leftover rice onto a baking tray with some baking paper and then drizzled with a little bit of sesame oil as well as some soy sauce, and I mixed that together roughly before putting it in the oven to bake. Then I've got some frozen edamame, which I honestly love edamame so much. I covered with some boiling water and set to the side for that to defrost. Whilst it was defrosting, I also cut up some fresh spinach as well as julienne peeled some carrot to add to this as well. And then I got into making my delicious peanut butter sauce. So I add some smooth peanut butter, soy sauce and rice wine vinegar followed by some water into a bowl, and I mix this together until it makes this beautiful, delicious, tasty peanut butter sauce. And then it is time to assemble our salad. So I added in spinach, carrot, edamame, that crispy rice, a whole heap of that peanut butter sauce, and I tossed this together to make a salad for dinner. Honestly, a little goes a long way with this salad. It is super filling and super delicious. I loved it so much. Crispy rice salad, it's officially going to be on the menu for a little while. Anyway, that brings us to the end of a few days of vegan food, budget-friendly vegan food. I hope you enjoyed, and I look forward to seeing you in next week's video. Have a beautiful day.